Hello, folks. I am this guy, Karsten. This is the first episode of my new show. I promised on Facebook that it would be at the beginning of May, but like a lot of things, I put it off and put it off and put it off. But this is my first episode. All right. So, the first topic I want to talk about the death penalty and that I'm against the death penalty. I believe that the cycle of violence between the Yermites and the Bernadites really shows that the death penalty is not really what you want, because in 1953 it was the Yermites, with the help of the Eisenhower administration, who put people, human beings, up on telephone poles, and they had these green explosives that would go off within 3 minutes, and they with green paint in them, and they called them frogs, and those were the ones who throughout, like, for instance, like the 40s or the 30s were 40s. Everybody was thinking World War II, but in, like, maybe in the 30s, they were the ones who I described on Twitter were kind of like bouncing up and down like the Last Night song, and they were saying they would swarm. One would appear, and then another, and then another, and it would burn, and then who knows what, you might get abducted or something. Now, most people are good, and definitely most people in this area, Crestline, San Bernardino, what used to be Yermo, they're good people. They're very, very good people. Uh, um, but because of things like the death penalty, it goes back and forth, because the Yermites took control in 1953. And by the way, when either side takes control, it kind of like spirals out. You know what I mean? The influences American politics in general. So we had Yermite influence in between 1953 and 2006. Those last few years, it was wearing off, and people were predicting a Bernadette revolution, which happened in 2006. I was totally unaware. I have fleeting memories of trying to stop it, which I described which I've described in various ways. But if what we do, there was a lot of people involved in the Bernadette Revolution of 2006, and if we just round them all up and give them all the death penalty, then it's just doing the same thing. Now, the one benefit is we need to put them on trial. We need to put them on trial by jury, not any kind of military tribunal or UN kind of thing, but at a trial by jury of their peers locally, like any normal trial would be, and the people who were in charge of the Bernadette Revolution of 2006 do need to be convicted for that. And by the way, when I say that, that guy had nothing to do with it, and he was trying to be a hero and stop it and publicize it, as I've described in my Substacks, as well. So I think we need to show people that we're better than killing by not inflicting the death penalty on anybody who was involved in this back and forth thing between the Yermites and the Bernadites. And usually what happens is the federal government gets involved whenever there's a revolution and picks sides. So what we need is way more openness in government. I described in one of my tweets that I couldn't highlight that we need all government documents declassified. I think that that would be a better use of government if they were all declassified uh, and open, and so we could see what's actually going on. Um, um, Donald Trump is talking about making Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The CIA director. I think that's a good start, but we need to have the goal to disband the CIA and not have that anymore. We can't have a super secret, super police organization in charge of things, accountable to nobody. We cannot have that. And these operations, I mean, people call 9/11 truth weird and everything, but if you look at Operation Northwoods, that really looks like 9/11 to me. And so, even if it was not actually 9/11, we can't have the planning of anything that looks like 9/11. And so we've got to completely get rid of the CIA. Another thing is don't trust history books. History books, and what I mean is the official narrative of history, because things get changed. Things are covered up. For instance, the Nazis would bury the bodies and cover up all evidence of their crimes, so that in case they lost, nobody would be able to find it or anything like that. So you've got to you've got to you have to look with a critical eye of history and ask questions in history class. Does this make sense? Don't worry about failing any test or whatever, but ask a lot of questions. Does this make sense? And one thing that just doesn't make sense to me, and I talked about it on Truth, is that yeah, since people can swim across oceans, given enough time, given thousands of years, somebody's gonna do it. Somebody's gonna do it. So I really think, for instance, in antiquity, they went all around the earth and everything. I really think so. I don't know what happened in the Middle Ages, but I think there was a lot of, since things were fractured, then there was a lot of covering up of the old history. I'm not romanticizing antiquity because I hate the fact that the Romans killed Christians. Peace still means peace. And so what I mean by that is I give the peace sign. That all that ever meant was peace. And so if you don't know what peace is about, like look at ask the people at Woodstock, for instance, like what was peace? It means the same thing. It means the same thing today as it did then. Peace means non-violence. Peace means, in some sense, love thy neighbor, love thy enemy. That's what peace is about. So when I'm giving the peace signs, I've stopped giving so many peace signs. And when I'm not giving a peace sign, that doesn't mean I'm not about peace. It just means my fingers didn't quite go up right there. But peace still means peace, and it's still a good thing to have, and it's still a good thing to promote. Peace. There's nothing wrong with peace. There's something wrong with the cycle of violence. And so what I talked about is the cycle between the Uramite and Bernadette flips. That's got to be stopped. because any other roundup like that, like that's just in the middle of the night without any kind of a trial or anything like that, leading to a whole bunch of death penalties. That's not peace. So I do believe in I do believe in law and order. Somebody once called me a anarcho-capitalist, and well, I wouldn't call myself an anarchist. Every time I've thought of it, when I think of anarchy, it just seems like some gang is going to eventually take over worse than the government actually is. We have a good constitution. I, except for the slavery clauses, which don't exist anymore. But the 13th Amendment is very, very good. And but we have a very solidly good Constitution that we should follow. And we should also follow the Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendment. No, nobody should be punished before conviction. And then the 13th and the Eighth Amendment says no cruel and unusual punishment. And the 13th Amendment says that no, no slavery unless it is, and it really shouldn't even include an exception, but unless somebody is convicted of a crime. Now that cruel and unusual punishment, if that isn't banning the death penalty, I don't know what it is, because when I described the resurrection centers from Nazis in eastern Ukraine, there's nothing that could be worse than the death penalty. So, what is cruel and unusual punishment if it's not the death penalty? And I still believe that there is a lot of Nazis in that eastern crescent of Ukraine, but I'm not sure whether it comes from Ukraine, Russia, or both. I do know that even though there is, I'm very certain that there are Nazis there. Vladimir Putin shouldn't have just came in and just massacred everybody. There was better, more international ways to go against that. And I'm not talking about the UN, but I'm talking about something that Ron Paul once talked about: international law, which doesn't require an international government body. But you can't attack civilians like Vladimir Putin does, even if there are Nazis in that area, which it seems like there is. When I talked about being teleported, my hypothesis, even to this day, was it was an attempt to teleport me to Ukraine, and it was thwarted when I was on the freeway and suddenly ended up on the Grapevine about an hour ahead of schedule when I was going to Sequoia National Park. I would also like to predict the election. I believe Donald Trump will win this 2024 election. Now, this has been my prediction in 2016, 2020. 2020, I only predicted it at the end when I saw some polls at the end kind of like moving in his direction. So I predicted that he would win. So I predicted all three times, and I'm 1-1. So if he wins this time, well, I'll at least be 2-1 and mostly have won. But I am predicting Trump will win this election. Don't give in to time loops. Don't give in to time loops. So, time loops is the rat bastard minor. Time loops is when you notice that somehow the information that some sort of communication coming from you is reaching the past. And that may sound kind of strange, but it can happen in this world. And what you need to do is, if you have advanced knowledge that something like that is going to happen, that you should probably just do anything but what you think is going to happen. So, like if I have advanced knowledge due to some sort of time loop that I'm going to crash today, then I just don't drive, for instance. Or I go somewhere else. Or if your intuition, right? If something doesn't seem right, cancel, do something else, go somewhere else. Like if you're planning a trip and you're feeling like, see, that's another thing. I think these flights, they should allow canceling with a full refund right up until the day of, because somebody could be booking a trip and then something just doesn't feel right, and if they don't go, then maybe they won't be unexpectedly surprised by something that doesn't feel right, if you know what I mean. So use your intuition, use your critical thinking, and think about and be able to cancel plans if something doesn't feel right. You are the only author to your destiny and what happens in your life. So and now accidents happen and tragedies happen, but if you think in advance something is going to happen in a certain way, just do something else. There was a Democratic black op which happened in July, where in my altered states, I think it was my T, which is trans. Excuse me. Let me describe the altered state. So right now, I am P, which is physical. So you can see me. I can make this video. I can post on all the social media sites. But very few times can anybody really comment or anything like that. And also, the curse of silence is as strong as it's ever been. That's another confusing thing, because I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe some people probably think that, some people probably think that because my altered states, all of them, I have reduced or almost like no curse of silence, so anybody can say whatever they want. And my altered states, my first altered state is my A, and that is my astral projection. And that's where I actually leave my body and you could see me, and that's my A. If I first heard about astral projection from someone named Al Taylor, Al Taylor. And then there's then there is my T. My T is my trance state. So you could put me in a trance state just by saying the word trance. But I hate that. Do you think anybody would like that? I didn't develop that phenomenon. I do not like the trance state. My favorite altered state is my A, but I don't like the T. Then there is my S. My S is when I get into an altered state, but nobody has said trance. So that's S. And I have tried to eliminate my S by not signing my middle initial when I sign things. And there's also my D, which is my dreaming state. I can do lucid dreaming where I know I'm dreaming. That's my D. I think that's it. There's my M, which is morning, but that's my M is mostly my P. And I've stopped drinking. I've stopped using marijuana, and I've stopped using caffeine. There was that slip up 2 days ago where I had 23 milligrams. But I've stopped overall on all three of those. But I believe by far, if you were to list all three of those, by far, the worst problem is the marijuana. And then between caffeine and alcohol, well, when I'm driving, the worst problem was the alcohol. But otherwise, I believe my worst problem was the caffeine. And when I say this, I'm definitely not saying that we should, I'm definitely not saying that we should ban by the force of government any of this. We should not ban alcohol, marijuana, tobacco. As a matter of fact, I'm for legalizing all the drugs. I'm for legalizing all the drugs. I strongly voted for Amendment 64 in 2018. And I also voted for Proposition 19. Forget when that was. That was like a decade before that, and that failed, but Amendment 64 passed. So I do believe in legalization. I believe that it really appears that marijuana does not really affect your driving all that much, although alcohol does. However, I'm taking for as long as possible an extended sobriety break. And Snoop Dogg, if Snoop Dogg were to get me unfrozen, I would light up, but that's it. I would not get any more energy drinks, and I would not drink alcohol. January 6th was supposed to be peaceful. So, people have criticized me for my retweeting everything Trump was retweeting and encouraging people to go to the January 6th rally, even though I was safely here in California and had no intention of going over there. January 6th was supposed to be a peaceful protest. It was supposed to be, we think Donald Trump actually won. I definitely do not support the noose. The noose and the Hain Mike Pence. I do not support the noose, nor do I support Hain Mike Pence. Even under trial, I am against the death penalty. And I'm against also murder. So I feel that I am pro-life, I'm against the death penalty, and I'm against murder. So I do not at all support the violence that happened on January 6th, although I did encourage people to go. At that time, I had zero awareness that a lot of people look at my Twitter. Absolutely none. However, I was not yet frozen, so people could respond on Twitter, and they did. Some people even responded in person, no way he voted for Trump, no way he won, and stop encouraging people to go to this rally. I mean, people would stop me on the street and say stuff like that, which hasn't happened recently to my P. I am still frozen P. And January 6th, this doesn't absolve the people who did it, but it would have been far more peaceful if all the conservatives weren't banned, because that was part of their frustration. If we can't have a dialogue online, and you're just going to ban voices, then people are going to get angry. Plus, I do think there were some liberal instigators there. The guy with the horns, I still think about the guy with the horns every single day. And I'm thinking like the guy with the horns, I'm kind of like thinking, uh, does he really seem like a Trump supporter? He doesn't seem like any Trump supporter that I've ever seen. And I want to talk about being vegetarian or not eating meat all that much. That's my own personal decision, and I'm not at all evangelical about it. Meaning, whether or not you eat meat or you do it all that often, that's not something I'm trying to convince anybody to do one way or the other. Uh, so, but I would say, um, Panda Express should bring back the Beyond Orange Chicken because that was. To be honest, I've tried both, and I really thought the Beyond was better. But they taken it off. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Okay, but you can influence. But I'm saying if you eat meat, I don't. Just go ahead and keep doing it. I would also like to talk about credit cards. It's some kind of a robbery that needs to be prosecuted or something like that, where somebody's credit card debt becomes like many times more than that they eventually have to pay. Now, when you're at the end of negotiating phase on the debt, sometimes you can negotiate it way down. But how much interest did you pay before it was negotiated way down? I really feel like, to be honest with you, I really feel like there shouldn't even be any credit. Imagine if to buy a car or buy a house there was no credit. I really feel like prices would go way down. I feel like one of the reasons prices are so high for things like cars and houses is because because they're bought on credit. Just think of the 1929 stock market crash. That was because people were buying a lot of stocks on margin. When you have so much credit, it becomes unsustainable. Now, I'm not sure if this works into the 2008 housing crash, but it becomes unsustainable, and the whole thing collapses and prices explode. So I really feel like if you could buy a house without credit or buy a car without credit, I'm not trying to be. I'm not. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to be preferential to anybody, but I'm just saying I really feel like prices would go down. So I it's definitely good advice to not get in credit card debt, but that's a vulture spiral. And anybody who's in debt, whether you're getting sued for debt or not, the bigger perpetrator is not you who spent money and couldn't pay. It is the banks. The banks are the evil ones when we're talking about debt. And I want to close with a Bible reading here. Okay, so let me get my Bible. I'm going to have to put this right here. There we go. Okay. So, Exodus. I'm looking at Exodus. I'm looking at Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Thou shalt not kill. Peace.